Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So whenever this happens, I'll be honest with you, I get a little excited, but then I have apprehension. I don't know what I'm in for. And I'm not talking about talking with her because she's just amazing and just wonderful and so talented as a psychic medium, clairvoyant, and healer, and so much more. I'm talking about this thing called a Mercury retrograde, which is about to start again within 2 days. What does it mean? What do we need to know? She's going to tell us. She's back with us, and I'm concerned as to how impactful this one's going to be. Nicole Smith is here. Hello, Nicole. How are you?
Hi, Steve. How are you today?
I'm well. So let's get it out there for anybody that doesn't know. And there are, I'll meet people and I'll tell them about the retrograde, and either they're like, yeah, I've heard about that, or they're like, yeah, okay, right. But I believe it's true. People used it, like you, people that do what you do used to tell me, and I kind of used to push it off until I started realizing things that are happening during these 3-week periods that typically happen 3 times a year, sometimes 4. We had one last year, 4 last year, that bridges into the new year. But we got one coming up on the 21st. And what should we know? Is this going to be a big one?
Buckle up, baby.
I have a feeling.
So actually with my brick and mortar business, we're having an event tomorrow night I tend to do full moon events and new moon events, depending on how powerful the astrology is coming in and the alignments are coming into play. This particular 48-hour period from Thursday to Friday is very significant because we're leaving Aries season. We're going into Taurus season. So happy birthday to all of you Tauruses out there. And then we've got the new moon, which is technically considered a blue new moon because we're having back-to-back moons in Aries again. So that most often doesn't happen where we have those same alignments or the same signs covering the moons. So we're moving into that season of Taurus, new moon in Aries. And this is also a hybrid solar eclipse, which tends to only happen about once every 10 years or so. So we're going to see this eclipse take us. What makes it hybrid, I'll put it this way, is it's going from an annular look to a total eclipse look back into an annular. So it's changing. And I think the only place in the world you're going to be able to really see how it occurs is going to be in like Australia. Interestingly enough, New York, the East Coast of the United States, is going to get some meteor showers. They're going to be pretty within like 48-hour period of this happening. So we'll have the meteor showers, but they are very quick to happen. So they're easy to miss. But then following all of this, Friday, we move into Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde, and I think we kind of touched upon this last week, was the re's, retro, R-E, very important. It is to reread, rewrite, reevaluate. If you're signing contracts, reading the fine print, it's going over things over and over and over again to make sure that you're not missing key points and elements to something that's going on. Right now, and I've said this in a lot of my YouTube videos and things like that as well, is we're kind of at a period of stillness. Aries is a much more passionate, fire-driven energy as a fire sign. Taurus is a much slower, we're working on our stability, our pentacles, which could equate to money, how we ground ourselves, how we connect to the things around us, what provides stability at the base of our core. So moving into this retrograde period, we may be reorganizing the way we do life. I know personally right now with my business, I'm doing a lot of reorganizing the things that I hadn't done and should have done a long time ago. So it's kind of pushing us forward to start to do things in a very new direction. A lot of karmic cycles with this are closing out. We need to remember that even though in our 3D world, we start a new year January 1st, but on the zodiac calendar, Aries season starts a new zodiac calendar year. So we're coming out of that first month, per se, of the calendar year, moving into the second, moving into Taurus season. So it's a new beginning. It's offering us new beginnings, new growth. Karmic cycles have closed. We're opening up new ones. Even though we've got this retrograde, it may feel like we're kind of stuck for a little bit, trying to find some decisiveness in the indecisiveness as we move throughout, into Gemini season following Taurus. But once things start to pick up after this reevaluation period, it's going to be all systems go for everybody. So it's going to be very, very important to recognize what it is that we're being asked to do, whether by our higher power, spirit, the universe, where we're seeing things break down out from underneath us that don't work anymore, and also recognizing where the new opportunities are coming to play. Are we going to jump on those, or are we going to allow fear to hold us back from making those changes? Because as humans, we hate change. We like comfortable. So very, very impactful period.
Okay, so normally I don't have anxiety, and I just reach over here, and somebody gave me stress relief aromatherapy spray.
Yeah, it's right all over the place.
Right. Many questions, and I've been studying retrogrades for years. Technology can get wonky, communication can go awry, and I remember a psychic medium who is very prominent. I was actually working with him. I want to say it was like 2010 to 2009, somewhere around there. And he used to tell me about it. I'm like, yeah. And then I remember him telling me about it, and it started the next day. and this is what happened. The entire country cell service shut down.
I remember that. Yes. And I'm going to tell you, on that note too, Mercury does rule our technology. You know, each planet has its own thing that it rules. Like Aries is war. Like they're real, go to war. We don't care. No holds barred kind of thing. Mercury is about our technology. It's about how we communicate with one another and different things. And I will say this too, and on that, and I'm glad you brought that up because I did miss that. During this period, watch your words, period. Just altogether watch your words, because I may mean something, but you're hearing it at your perception. I may not have meant it that way, but you're taking it that way.
I always say this. I don't want to cut you off, but this, I tell everybody, when it comes to texts, emails, all of that, check.
Write and reread it.
Check and double check. They're your best friends. Check and double check. Yeah, you got it.
Reread it. Yeah. I tell people that just in a general consensus. I mean, because are you acting from an emotional space? You know, in anything that we do, any kind of communication that we have, if we're getting something that we're feeling a little off about, you know, it's like, go ahead, type it out, let it sit for an hour and go back to it. And if you go, oh God, I sounded like an ass, maybe you should retype. You know, there's a reason for that, but especially during this 3-week period. But I also will say this, it's not just a matter of the 3 weeks. We have a pre-shadow period, and we're in it now with Mercury retrograde. And then there's a post-shadow period that typically lasts for about 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after. So it's not just like, oh, wait, Friday comes, now I need to be careful, and today you can just fly off the rails. You're gonna, it tapers in, it tapers out. So you've got to be cautious that whole period of time too. So communication, very, very important. And technology, if you're doing stuff, pay attention, prepare for the unexpected as well, because it's likely to happen.
I was just going to talk about that pre and post phase. How impactful is that? I'll give you just something that's on my mind. I did something last night. I was waiting for it to happen. It's personal, and it went well, as I can see. I'm glad I did it before the retrograde. But how strong is this pre and post? Because then there's something that I have major coming up on the 22nd of May. And this wraps the 14th of May.
Gotcha.
The 14th. So I'm wondering, you know, how that's going to phase out.
I would just say be cautious. I mean, think about it in this sense that, how do I put, okay, we're going to step outside of that for 1 second to just kind of give an example. Right now, we've got Pluto floating around in Aquarius energy, okay? And that started last month. I think it was the 23rd of March. It's a prelude between now till June 11th of what is to come for the next 15 to 20 years. Because on June 11th, Pluto is going to go back into Capricorn, where it was prior to this shift in March. So to me, the way I see the retrograde periods is it's like a taste of. It's leading up into, it's the anticipation of what is to come. So you may start to see little quirks happening, little things that seem a little off-centered, off-balanced, moving through those pre-shadow phases in any retrograde. And then once it starts to wrap up, you'll start to see it's kind of like that adrenaline rush starts to dump down and things start to get a little clearer, a little more, and I think, a little more settled. But I also think that coming out of those periods, that too is also still a good time to reflect, like over that pre-shadow, the 3 weeks, and then the post is like, what is it that I could have done differently? It's very much about the lesson. I'm always like, what did you learn? That's like the big thing. What have you learned from this experience? So also just recognizing that where you maybe flew off the cuff or maybe took something the wrong way or something, they always say triggered you. What was it about that experience during that time frame that really it amplifies what's going on? But what is it about it that created conflict or breakdowns? What can you be better prepared for the next time around? It really does show us the foundational breaks, in my opinion, of where we need to do better at the end of the day. So I would not be super concerned because, again, just that pre and that post is like, I would say to you, good thing it's happening outside of that 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks are the imperative, but it's, again, the adrenaline rush moving into it, the adrenaline rush coming out of it, or the lack thereof at that point.
Yep.
So, and people are like, can I buy a house during this, or can I buy a car? Yeah, you can. I mean, you're not doomed to hell if you don't, you know what I mean? Or if you do, people go, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's not that. It's just asking you to genuinely be present and pay attention, to reread. How many times have we all signed papers and they're like, here, even at the doctor's office, here, sign this HIPAA paper, Yep. We sign it. We don't read even the first word on that paper. It just says HIPAA. Here you go. It's really just saying you really want to understand what it is that you're doing, to reevaluate. And I think this period is very much because we're starting new cycles, to reevaluate what we have done before so that we're not repeating these mistakes moving forward, because we're starting a whole new karmic cycle. Do you want good karma or do you want bad karma? It's really a very simple thought. Do good, you get good rewards. You do bad, well, that's on you,
So more questions for you. Here we go. Talking about the karma, let's go right there since you mentioned it. Is this a period where the bad karma can potentially show up if you haven't done the right thing?
Yes. Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
And I'm going to be honest, it's funny because you said like, your friend had told you about Mercury retrograde and the next thing you know, it was happening. Over the years of doing this work, I have taken my own life as the example. And as I sit down to do readings and work with people, I'm an open book to let me tell you about my experience and understand why this kept happening or how this played out and why it did the way that it did. So I always take my own life and dissect it and go,
Same.
How is this playing out according to these astrological events? And I will tell you, I've got actually a very big to-do this afternoon that I'm going to find out some information about. And I'm very curious to see how it plays out, because karma could be knocking on somebody else's door. And not that I take pleasure in that, but it's like when you come from a space of positive intention,
yep,
from your highest good, your soul's in the right place, your heart's in the right place, you mean well, the universe has no option at the end of the day but to reward you for your good deeds. If you come into something lying, manipulating, stealing, cheating, sitting in the space of ego, it's going to bite you in the ass one way or another eventually. You get to decide. You have free will choice. So I wouldn't, if you've been in a place of lacking integrity and positive intention, I would not want to be in the hot seat of karma right now.
That feels good. Not that I wish anything bad on anybody, but there are those people out there that
you get what you give. You don't want. I'm trying to teach my 8-year-old right now. She had an experience, and I'm like, she's heard that phrase, treat people the way you want to be treated, but she kind of got it backwards. It was real cute though. It was cute but not cute. She's like, well, they hurt my feelings, so their feelings should be hurt. And I'm like, it's not your job to hurt their feelings. That's the 8-year-old perspective is like, well, hey, but I'm like, you just need to recognize, like, if you do nice things and just walk away from a negative situation,
yep,
and treat it well, it will, and sometimes you have to break it down to adults, like they're an 8-year-old child at the end of the day going, play nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just play nice.
And trust the universe. And my daughter just turned 15. And I repeatedly always say that you need to, watch what you do. And,
Mhm.
the eye for an eye and that doesn't really work that way. So
No.
let that go. Uh, would you say, or with what's coming our way with this particular retrograde, the eclipse, and all of this stuff, to me, it kind of sounds like the perfect storm. And
It could be.
if you were to say 10 on a 0 to 10 scale, 10 being, whoa, this one's going to rock your world. This is elevated. Where would you put this one?
Me personally, I would put it in a 9 or 10, simply because we
Mm.
have the ability to transform our world right now for a higher purpose. We have new opportunity and growth on the horizon if we allow that, if we embrace that. I honestly, as much as it feels chaotic to a lot of us, because we have to embrace that change, and that again really sets humans into some kind of like kind of moment. But the positive that can come out of this can change your world in ways that you can't fathom. It really is expect the unexpected, but expect it in a positive sense. If you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to let go of the fear. So I see it as a 9-10 on positive trajectory, if that's what you're choosing. If you're
Yeah.
not, consequences come with those actions. I just did a reading for Gemini for YouTube right before we got started here today. And that was part of what came out in the collective reading for Gemini right now. So I'm not the least bit surprised by that.
I just want to jump back in here during the 3-week period. I personally, if I can avoid doing things that are major in life, I do, or I would. Like my daughter, I have an older daughter, and she's about to buy a house, and it was a last minute thing. It's, not a lot of inventory. It just came her way. I'm like, when are you closing on that? And she goes, well, the date is the 15th. I'm like, hold on a minute. And this is a couple of weeks ago. And I wasn't mindful of the retrograde dates. I'm like, stand by. Okay. You missed it by one day. And usually closing dates are delayed anyway. But
Right.
I told her, I would try not, me personally, wouldn't buy a house. If you're going to have surgery and it's elective, if you can get it outside of the 3-week period,
Do it.
why not? What do you got to lose? Yeah, can we change the date and make it a little bit later? Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. Those things, buying a car, if you need one, you need one. If you can wait a little bit, but then to your point, double check, read the fine print, all the terms and conditions.
I will say this to you. When you said that about your daughter, I want to say, have her push it back 7 days. She's just not available that day.
It's looking like it's going that way anyway, because the week later, which was 2 weeks ago, she told me that there's issues with the seller and then timing and everything. So they kind of like dancing a little bit, where it looked like,
they need to push it back 7 days. As I grabbed the cards. I'm like, do I want to put, and I'm like, intuitively, Spirit says 7 days. They need to push it back 7 days. And then I think there's going to be something about it that she may be okay with right now, or they're not fully disclosing something. If she waits that 7-day period, it's going to kind of come out in the woodwork. And then she may go, well, hold on a minute. I still feel like ultimately she'll probably end up buying, but something needs to be changed about some detail. It's a small detail, but it's one that's like, it could be a long-term headache if it's not addressed now. I'll put it that way.
It just seems that the sellers weren't fully transparent.
There you go.
Yeah, a little things, little, timing wise and what they're doing and all of that. So yeah, I'll definitely let her know about that. The thing I did last night. What are your feelings on that? It's something that kind of in the long term coming. My gut says from day one that it's going to be terrific.
I want to say, when it comes to the energy of it, it's very solely about you. And I'm not sure what that means for you. So you're going to have to decipher you're going to know what that means for you. But
it involves others. It involves others. Yeah.
Okay. But here we go. What are you learning from that experience about yourself? Because your energy is like dead center of everything about this.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So this is hard to explain. I always make jokes. I wish I could plug my head into a computer and people could see what I see clairvoyantly, right? When I pick up energy, if there's other people involved or how it's playing out, I will tend to pick up on other people. But there's something about whatever this is specifically about you. It's kind of like you're the nucleus of whatever this is. It's very, very important to you. Your energy is just dead center. And I almost want to say that without you, this couldn't happen somehow.
Yes, it's me in others' lives.
Gotcha.
And that's, kind of it. But from day one, I always had a very positive feeling. And it just took time to get to this point.
Gotcha.
And it's not about me, but I love showing the process to everybody, how you do it. And you've nailed some stuff before that just blew my mind, like just random stuff. Like totally on point. Like
again, I'm going to say that I don't know why, that whatever you're bringing to the table in this endeavor,
okay,
and that's the word Spirit is giving me, is endeavor.
Okay.
There would be no replacement for you. It isn't like you could take a fill-in and put them in there and they would do exactly what you're capable of doing in that. You are literally irreplaceable in this situation. And it's like whatever you're bringing to the table, you're coming at it from an emotional space. It's not about, it's funny. I'm thinking about the conversation that we kind of had before we got started today, that it's where your intention lies, like why I do what I do. I feel it in here. For you, whatever this is, what you're bringing from this space, of the heart space, is what other people would lack if they were to be put into your shoes. They don't have that emotional drive to make that happen. And I want to say to you that
you're 100% right.
I don't know if you can see it, but I've got goosebumps all over me. That's usually confirmation from spirit that what I'm saying is pinpointed. But because that's where you're standing with this, that's where it's coming from, you can't screw it up.
I don't feel I can screw it up. And I'm so humble. I really am. It's how others feel about it. It's all on others. It's all on others.
Have you ever done your birth chart?
Somebody did it for me. Yes. And actually, an astrologer a couple of years ago-ish, year and a half, actually, a couple, another astrologer said the same thing, that just what you're saying, second half of 2023, watch the blank out. Personally, everything's going to explode in a way positive direction. It's all coming your way.
You're a Virgo. Do you know what your rising sign is and your sun or your moon sign is?
This is way above my pay grade. I have no idea. All of that, even when an astrologer does a reading and they're like, in the house is 7 some, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like a foreign language, isn't it?
I can't. I just can't.
The reason I say this to you is like I said, I just did Gemini's reading. I have a little thing that I have all the signs on, and I'm like, who's getting the reading today? Who needs this collective reading?
Interesting.
And Gemini, I did it 3 times over every time Gemini came out.
Meaning what?
The Gemini zodiac. So I did a collective reading for the Gemini zodiac on YouTube today.
For Geminis.
And
what did you how would you encapsulate it in a few words for Geminis in the next couple of months?
Well, the reading that I did today said that how did I title it? Your directional purpose is about you, I believe is how I worded it. This is about them making a decision, and they're stuck in, I don't want to say stuck, but really evaluating or reevaluating, Mercury retrograde, that the decisions that they've made in the past, there's like naysayers. And I said in that video, it does not matter what another person's perception is of what it is that you're doing. It's where your soul is taking you. Again, positive intention. So it's kind of like the way I felt it for Gemini was they are supported by community of friends, family, whatever this might be. For each person, it's going to be a little different. But it's like they have this one person in their life or situation that is not supportive of the direction they want to go. And through that, they're hesitant to make these positive moves. And it's like, that's where they're seeking the acceptance, the validation from whoever or whatever this is, because that's like the most important thing to them. I think for some people, and again, it's always different because it's a collective reading. I'm reading for billions of people across the world, that some person may have lost a loved one and they felt like there's no closure, or they never felt the acceptance from that person that they needed to be able to feel like that they're heading in the right direction. For others, it may be a spouse, it may be a family member who every time they're like, well, I'd like to do this. Well, this is a terrible idea. And this, and this is why. So then that beats down the self-confidence, that beats down the self-will to just keep pushing forward to reach what is their happiness, or what is meant for their soul's growth, or what's going to bring them a fruitful life. So they're really struggling with this either person of the past, a person that has passed away, or a current situation of a person around them that just doesn't agree with their purpose. And I'm like, if that is their perception, that's their perception. So, if you've got naysayers around you at this time, politely, all due respect, who gives a shit?
Just block it out and do your thing.
Well, I I have people come in and are like, well, my mom, they're 25, 27 years old, and my mom doesn't agree. And I'm like, is mom paying your bills? Is mom raising your kids? Is mom, working your schedule every single day? Not that these people in our life don't matter, because they do, but healthy boundaries, very important.
And this is for Geminis.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to tell you this too. When I do those videos, it's for Gemini sun, moon, rising, and Venus placements. So if you have Gemini in your sun sign, your main zodiac, it's in your rising, it's in your moon position, or it's in your Venus position, you're going to see most often that's going to resonate with one of those 4 placements.
Wow. I love the detail. You are just like, you don't leave any stone unturned. It's like you go there.
I don't know how to. It's just not who I am. I don't run surface level anything. I can't help it.
I don't think you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing, but I don't think you realize how you're doing it. It's almost as if like you're a quarterback, and I'm not big into sports, but best analogy I have is, best analogy, I just threw the ball to Nicole and she's just doing her thing, running down the field, scoring, and that's it. She's just, oh, did I score? I didn't even know I did. Oh, well, I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing. Amazing.
Precisely.
Amazing. What's your website again?
holisticallyzenwv.com. And we did get more stuff imported over to the website, product wise. Now we're just prettying it up and adding additional information. And that's actually on my game plan this afternoon. I might be pulling an all-nighter tonight at my store.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, you have, aside from getting readings, which I'm going to say you have my blessed testimonial. You're amazing.
Thank you.
But even just, website and products. And if somebody wants to get a reading, or even astrologically, and by the way, I didn't know how deep you ran astrologically here. So we got that today with the retrograde.
I'm digging. You know what? It's something I've always done. I was sitting down studying. I mean, people kind of laugh at me because, I work all day long. I do this, I do all kind of different things. But then, when I come home at night, I'm studying, I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm doing intuitive work myself. And then every night, just about every night, I go to bed and I do sleep hypnosis on myself, because it opens me up to be able to channel better. It gives me direction in my own life. I'm seeing signs and synchronicities that are going to be indicative of everything that's going to come in the coming weeks. So I literally, when I say I work 24/7, no joke. Like, I go to bed and do this.
And it shows. And many mediums don't run deep in terms of astrology. Some of them skim the surface. Website one more time.
holisticallyzenwv.com, and all of our information, address, phone number, email, everything can be located on there. And then on YouTube, Path of Enlightenment Tarot, again, another email availability there too, to reach out to me for personal readings.
Nicole, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. I enjoyed today. Have a wonderful week.
Check and double check.
Absolutely. You betcha.
All right. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.